What they're going to do is something in the
Please be upstanding. For the mayoral party, including the Deputy Lieutenant, His Worship, the Mayor of the London Borough Hounslow, the Deputy Mayor, the Chief Exec, and 2 other members of the party. Thank you. Have a seat, please. Welcome to the special Borough Council meeting today. I welcome all free men and free women of the borough. I welcome public who's attending today, and public who are watching through YouTube and other social media. I remind everyone, can you please put your phone off, not on silent, please. And I remind everyone that only public can tweet, not the councillors. Now, as you know, we have 2 important and pleasant things to do tonight. The first will be to pay tribute to 5 people with strong connections to the borough who have recently been recipients of honours. Thereafter, we'll move to the main business on the agenda, which is to confer the highest honour that the council can give on 2 highly deserving individuals who have served Hounslow Council for many years. This is freedom of the borough, and tonight we will be awarding this to the councillor, Mr. Amrit Mann, and to Mr. Kennelly. Our former lieutenant in what I hope will be a celebrating meeting. This meeting is ceremonial, one, and should not be itself last too long. So, no politics today, please. And after that, I'll all invite you for a mirror reception in the lounge, please. And I request everyone to join me there. Any apologies of absence, please? Councillor Chaudhary?
Sorry, it's for lateness. I was too excited.
Councillor Gill?
Peter Thompson.
Councillor Chaudhary? Councillor Borough?
Councillor Williams, who's just had a baby girl.
Congratulations. And I think there's no declaration of interest. Oh, sorry.
Also, Councillor Alan Joseph is not here.
Okay. Note. Councillor Shaheen.
Councillor Lukey for lateness.
Thank you. So now, agenda item 2, my announcements. Thank you. Today I'm very delighted to inform and share with you all that we have 5 borough residents who have received various awards from the Queen, and like today they are all 5 of them are present with us. One is Patricia Owen, who has been awarded BEM. Brian Burgess, who has been awarded again BEM. Jane Wetkin, who has been awarded OBE. Sobia Nawaz, awarded MBE. And Mr. Mukesh Malhotra been awarded BEM. I welcome you all with your guests today, and I'm very honored and proud for your success. As you know, it's a great to be nominated and receive the honor, and I know the members will be proud to learn of the impressive services given to the community in Hounslow by the 5 recipients. Now I'll give you a brief description and achievements of all 5 individuals who have been awarded with these awards. I start with Brian Burgess, who was many members as a former deputy chairman of Brentford Football Club and as a current trustee of Brentford Football Club and Community Sports Trust now. He was awarded the British Empire Medal for his service to football and in recognition of his extensive voluntary work in the community in this field. As you know, that BEM is granted in recognition of civil and military services. In Brian's case, he has held a number of posts and roles in and supporting Brentford Football Club, including as a trustee of the Brentford Football Community Sports Trust charity since it became an independent trust in 2005. He has also been the chair of Supporters Direct, the umbrella organization that provides support and assistance for its members' trust to secure a greater level of accountability and deliver democratic representations within football clubs and within football's governing structures. In short, to help strengthen the connections between football clubs and their communities, he famously did this in 2003 when he led the acquisitions of majority holding Brentford Football Club by Supporters Direct. He has since then extended the promotion of community football clubs nationally. Another winner of the BEM, which has been described as being awarded to the people of Hands on Public Service, is Patricia Owen for her active work as volunteer and fundraiser for a number of local groups in Feltham, particularly the Scouts, the Princess Alice Hospice, and Macmillan, the cancer charity. She is described as someone who fundraises tirelessly, and she has raised many thousands of pounds for over the years. She first became involved with Scouts movement in 1979 when she supported the 7th Feltham Sea Scouts and has never looked back. Having been recognized several times with the Scouts Medal of Merit and other scouting awards, and at the Princess Alice Hospice, she has given dedicated support to Dovetail Bereavement Program, which is specialist bereavement support service for the children who have lost parents or close family members. On top of all this, she has been governor of school in Feltham since 1995 with special responsibility and interest in supporting children with special education needs. And now, Jane Watkin was awarded OBE for the services to children in London. She was the most impressive record working with Westminster City Council, having helped over 5,000 children under the age of 4 and also their parents through their family help service, which she had and developed with now more than 3 families hubs and connect families with the assistance they need. As you can imagine, Jane is a leading figure in the field of social care with an endless passion with improving the lives of vulnerable young people. A good example of this is her working with the partners of information sharing, which has helped at least 80 families experiencing domestic abuse to break the cycle. Sabia Nawaz is the customer service manager at Santander's who traveled to her branch in Hounslow throughout COVID-19 crisis, ensuring customers continued to be served and had access to banking services during the difficult time. The honor citation stated that she had shown the compassion, level-headedness, and community spirit, which Sabia responded has made her a role model for her colleagues in Santander. Sabia has also one of the first member of staff to take their own initiative to go well above and beyond their normal duties by reaching out to the vulnerable customers to check on their well-beings and offering whatever support she could to help them through the crisis. As an example, she was key to serve food drive events within the branch where food and other essentials were delivered to those who could not get to supermarket. Her response to the crisis was so impactful because it was built upon the time and care she had taken since joining the team in Hounslow to build relationship with her customers, so she knew where the help was most likely to be needed. Now, lastly, but not the least, Mukesh Malhotra. Everybody knows him, who is well known in many of us here in the chamber, and himself a former councillor, received a BEM for his work in spreading communities' efforts in Hounslow during the COVID period. He is well-known local Rotarian as he, along with his colleagues in a charitable organization, worked tirelessly to ensure food and provisions were made available, particularly into vulnerable in Hounslow. His award of the BEM recognizes his hands-on approach to the community work, and anyone who knows Mukesh will also be aware that this was done alongside his huge portfolio of charitable works, which include his work alongside Suzanne Ria to create a Rotary World Greatest Medal to help end polio initiatives, which has helped to save millions of children worldwide. He is also a trustee in water charity rollout The Barrel, whose primary aim is to transport clean water and closer to home. Is a trustee of Ivy Bridge Link, the charity that runs Ivy Bridge Center. I know that members will now join me in thanking all 5 of them for their magnificent work in their fields. Can you please join me here? Thank you, everyone. Now let's move to next item. We now move to the main item this evening, which is the creation of 2 new honorary freemen of the London Borough of Hounslow. The Council has in past awarded the title to a number of highly deserving individuals who have performed a great service to the Borough. We are lucky, therefore, to have tonight to be able to honor 2 new such people. Councillor Amrit Mann, who is land-standing councillor for over 25 years, service to the public, and Paul Kennelly, our former Deputy Lieutenant, who has had the distinction of having been a Deputy Lieutenant for Hounslow on 2 separate occasions between 2009 and 2012, and then again between 2018 and 2022. It is therefore a great honor as Mayor to oversee the formal nomination process for both these deserving individuals. So may I start by calling Councillor Shantanu Rajvat, a leader of the Council, to propose the motion, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. As you all know, the Freedom of the Borough is the highest award the Council can bestow on any individual. By Section 2495 of the Local Government Act 1972, a Borough Council may admit persons of distinction and persons who have, in the opinion of the Council, rendered eminent services to the City or Borough as honorary freemen. You will know Paul Kennelly, who retired in March, has been a superb Deputy Lieutenant for Hounslow for both his terms in office. Paul qualified as a chartered surveyor in the City of London, becoming involved in city civic, commercial and educational causes, a city company, the reserve forces and various charities. Paul is DL for Hounslow not once but twice between 2009 and 2012, and then again between 2018 and 2022, has been a real stalwart for the borough. Paul is the rarest of people, popular with members across the political spectrum, and a favourite in the community too. As Steve Curran, my predecessor, so eloquently said, Paul is a man that everyone is pleased to see and talk to, liked and respected by all. I'm therefore absolutely delighted to be nominating Paul to receive the Freedom of the Borough, and it's my sincere hope that this helps us continue to benefit from his wisdom, energies and friendship for many years to come. Paul Kennelly. But of course, that is not all. I'm equally delighted to be nominating Councillor Amrit Mann as an honorary freeman of the Borough of Hounslow as well. Amrit, as we know him affectionately, has represented the people of Heston East since 1994 and has lived in the ward since 1985. That's a year after I was born. You've been there a long time. His passion for Hounslow and its people is self-evident in how he approaches his work, unflailingly committed. Amrit served as Mayor of Hounslow in 2011-12 and as Deputy Leader between 2014 and 18. He's been absolutely instrumental in delivering everything from new road resurfaces, street lighting and footways to major projects such as Heston Infants, Juniors and Secondary Schools, Lambton Sports Hall and the Heston Leisure Complex. Amrit's input and leadership around young people and crime are of particular note, as is his recent role as Chair of Planning during the last administration. It's been an absolute honour and privilege to serve with Councillor Mann, and the Freedom of the Borough will be a fitting tribute to his extensive service to Hounslow. Mr. Mayor, I'm pleased to move both nominations.
Thank you, Councillor Rajvat. Now I may ask Councillor Mr. McGregor to second the nomination, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, and members of the Council and honoured guests, it's such a privilege to stand before you and second this nomination of 2 outstanding individuals who have truly served this borough through thick and through thin. I'll deal, if I may, with the Deputy Lieutenant first. Those of you who are good readers and who like social histories may have a particular affection for Charles Dickens. And he created a school in Yorkshire called Dotheboys Hall, which was an absolute nightmare. Hocklington may have been the model. We'll find out later from Paul Kennelly how his school days went. The school, however, has many values, and one of which is the motto, which in English means with courage and truth. And the school itself has not just produced a wonderful alumni such as our Deputy Lieutenant, it has historically produced some wonderful figures such as William Wilberforce and the hugely important divine, the former primus of the Church of Scotland, Bishop John Howe, a man of great authority and academic background. He has served for us as Deputy Lieutenant for 7 years. Following the literary allusion, there's a famous book about seamanship, 7 years before the mast, and all the horrors of serving in a sailing ship. Well, I hope we advance from that time so we have a modern cruise liner for our dedicated Deputy Lieutenant. The important thing about it was, as a cruise liner, he has been, for us, a wonderful host at so many events and getting to know people and moving amongst us, introducing himself with great alacrity, being part of what we do in special events and being part of what we do in the announcements we make here at Hounslow. He's also got other interests, and I'd like to share one with him. We have a mutual friend. Paul is a member of a parochial church council of St. Margaret's, Lothbury, a church very close to the Bank of England. And the priest there and I are a mutual friend, alongside your knowledge of him as well. Jeremy Cosley is a wonderful member of the Church of England. He is definitely a mover and shaker, just like his friend Paul here. I'd just like to say a few words about the Diamond Jubilee and the Platinum Jubilee. It was quite clear that during the Platinum Jubilee, our Deputy Lieutenant did not put a foot wrong because he'd served his apprenticeship during the previous Jubilee events. What are Deputy Lieutenants? I'll just read a little bit for you so we understand what the role is. Deputy Lieutenants are distinguished residents who enjoy music. We're playing your tune, I think. Now, when they serve the local community, then that's very special because that's what we are here in Hounslow to represent and to celebrate tonight. But other fields can be, of course, important to them. They should be known in the locality for their service. They should be known also for their public life. They should be also known for their charitable activity. So many things to be known for come through on the Deputy Lieutenant. Also, we should remember with great pride that they represent our sovereign Queen, Elizabeth, as a very important personality representing the Crown and the state within the London Borough of Hounslow. That is very, very important because we have a diverse borough and we need a head of state to whom we can represent and recognise for their values. Finally, without a doubt, Sir Paul Kennelly has definitely earned this celebration and this award tonight of Freedom of the Borough. And it's such a pleasure to join with my old friend, Councillor Wadowa, and second this motion on his behalf. Now, Councillor Mann has been on the council since 1994. That was the year I left primary school. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that absolutely amazing? My goodness me. What a man he is. Look at this. Full of vitality, full of vim, full of vigour, and he shows that in his work for the people of Hounslow. He is well known to people because he gets himself about. He does things for people. Yeah? Now, one of the key things to remember, if you have a long memory, you'll think about some of the things that happened in London over the last few years, including the bombings in 2005, including the terrorist attacks on the London transport system that happened that year. And being a councillor is very important because you have to represent the community so well. So civil disasters like the Grenfell fire are a recognition of the value of strong local government, represented by Councillor Mann here in the work he's done over many years. He is a man who appears to be religious. I don't know his priest, but if I did, there'd be a mutual friend undoubtedly. Okay. The important thing about Amrit is he is grounded. Family, background, good social behavior, good understanding. I first met him when I became a councillor through his sister. His sister was an officer looking after an aspect of education which was dear to my heart, and she proved to herself to be extraordinarily capable and good at what she did, and then introduced her brother to me, someone even more capable of doing things. So that was an early element here of friendship with this gentleman here, and I recognize and I value that over many years. And I hope those of you who know him too recognize that too, that stalwart nature. We've had the word stalwart addressed to Paul Kennelly. But another stalwart, a stalwart of Hounslow here. In 25 years' time, no, not 25, in 23 years' time, he'll be a 50th anniversary man. Okay, all right? So let's look forward to that, because there's a lot of deserving interest here that Councillor Mann has shown in his personal behaviour, in the past and hopefully in the future. I therefore have such great pleasure of seconding the motion to provide Councillor Amrit Mann with the freedom of the borough.
Thank you, Councillor McGregor. Now we have a number of agreed speakers this evening who I will be inviting them to address members in praise of our Councillor Mann and Mr. Kennelly. May I first invite members to speak in favour of Councillor Mann. I invite Councillor Gurmail Lal.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of Parliament, distinguished guests, and members of the Council. I fully agree with the comments already made by Councillor Rajwat and Councillor McGregor, but I would like to say a few more words about Amrit. I've known Amrit close on 22 years, and tonight, clearly, I have the greatest pleasure to speak in support of his nomination for Freedom of the Borough. Amrit, having been an active councillor of over 25 years, there is so much ground to cover, and we can say so much about Amrit. So I'm going to limit myself to sharing with you three of what I feel are the key, biggest, and seismic and best achievements to date, because there's obviously more to come, that Amrit has done. I think Councillor Shantanu Rajwat already alluded to it earlier, but forgive me for recapping. Amrit is a great local champion and a dedicated community representative. He never misses an opportunity to lobby the case for investment in Heston. The fruits of his lobbying are visible today. Firstly, the new Heston Leisure Centre. It has had a massive impact on the health and well-being of residents in and around Heston, and also provided a much-needed facility for our youth to let off steam. Secondly, the redevelopment of the Heston Schools campus. The new buildings and improved facilities on this campus have, I'm sure, made a tremendous difference in the future life chances of our children to fully reach their highest academic potential. Thirdly, on a more strategic borough-wide leadership role, Amrit was at the forefront of decision-making and delivery when it was decided by the then Labour administration to set up one of West London's largest state-of-the-art recycling centres. For those of you present who don't know, this is the materials handling site on Southall Lane. If you ever get the chance, I would strongly recommend you visit and see for yourself what a fantastic asset this site is for the borough. Finally, Mr. Mayor, it is a sign of Amrit's ability, experience and wisdom that during the last 25 years he has served in the cabinet under previous Labour leaders, Councillor John Chatt, late Councillor John Chatt, Councillor Colin Eller, Councillor Jagdish Sharma, and not forgetting his role as Deputy Leader under Councillor Steve Curran. So, it is only right and proper that tonight we recognise Amrit, but also Paul, who have given our borough outstanding public service. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lal. Now I ask Councillor Aqsa Ahmed, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, the leader and Councillor Lal have already stolen the thunder here, but I'll add a few more words to that. So from the time I've known Councillor Amrit Mann, he has shown to be a man of his words, a man that enjoys to help his community and receives genuine comfort from it. Having spoken to many residents who have all praised Amrit's hard work and dedication on both a personal and a professional level, it is no surprise he's in his 25th year as a councillor, but surely not far off the energy of a 25-year-old too. Having said that, he'd always finish his side of the street before Gamel and I could complete ours. Just to sum it up, I feel privileged to be working alongside such an experienced councillor, and I wish Councillor Amrit Mann another 25 years of success. Congratulations.
Thank you, Councillor Ahmed. Now, can I ask Councillor Ron Mashisho, please?
All right. Man, oh man, oh man. If ever there was a suitable name for a great councillor, it's Councillor Mann. The man, the myth, and the legend. First, let's talk about the man. Distinct with his piercing eyes and probing and examining visage, he can easily win an argument just by a look. We've seen it, I've experienced it. We often say on this side of the chamber that Labour backbenchers tend not to contribute. Not so for Councillor Mann when he's in the backbench, because his presence alone speaks volumes. A gesture here, a frown there, Caesar himself will be envious of the control you have for the room and for your longevity. 27 years, several posts, and a few of them in cabinet, as my colleagues have mentioned already. And one as mayor, where I think I first came across you. And I say this from the heart. I first met you in a hallway of the old Civic Centre, as you may remember. And I'll never forget the words you said to me. Get out of my way, kid. You are a loyal servant. Black, white, Asian, or other, it doesn't matter. We're all one Hanslow. All right? We're working towards one common goal. And that goal is to figure out why Councillor Mann has not yet retired. Well, Councillor Mann, you're a great hero. That's what he asked me to say. Well, let's now move on to the myth. Okay. They say that a myth is a work of imagination and therefore a work of art. It needs poets to make a myth. And we have already listened to fellow poets and members fittingly and poetically describe your legacy. And I'm aware of a local journalist who is putting together perhaps a compilation of this borough for the next 4 years. His name is perhaps John Dale. And I know none of the Labour councillors will contribute in any way, shape or form to this compilation book. Okay? But I'm putting out my own 3-line whip to all you members, and I urge you now not to leak any information to John Dale should he wish to write a book on Councillor Mann. Not because Councillor Mann's not worthy of the accolades, but because Councillor Mann is a legend. And to quote my favourite author, G.K. Chesterton, it's easy to see why a legend ought to be treated more respectfully than a book. The legend is generally made by the majority of the people in the village who are sane, and the book is often written by the one man in the village who is mad. Figure it out for yourself, John Dale. Anyway, Councillor Mann, we honour you as a stalwart, as many have said, of this borough. A legend made by the people, a legend for the people, and a legend on the side of the people. From the moment you first got elected 27 years ago, you have been doing a brilliant job throughout. And even though we don't hang out together, we never campaign together, we don't even break bread together, anyone who has been in your company, as I have, and like many of you in this room today, speak of you with love and reverence. So congratulations, Councillor Mann, the man, the myth, the legend.
Thank you, Councillor Mishisha. Shall we now hear from the members who are speaking in favour of nomination of Paul Kennelly, please? Councillor Catherine Dunn.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I'm delighted to be supporting the nomination of Paul Kennelly to the highest honour that we can bestow upon him, which is the freedom of our borough. Paul, as you have heard, has served as Deputy Lieutenant of the Borough, and he did so on 2 occasions, both from 2009 to 2012, and then again from 2018 up until this year, following the very sad death of Maria Pedro. We were very grateful to Paul for him stepping back into that role again, and he did so with great sensitivity. Paul has had a varied career and has a wide-ranging interests. He qualified as a chartered surveyor in the City of London, and he worked in the city for many years. He served in the Reserve Forces from 1971, I believe, and he is the trustee of several charities, including some that we've heard about to do with the clergy. I also understand that Paul is the trustee of a sailing charity and enjoys sailing. His other interests include choral music. I don't know whether he sings himself or just likes to listen. Maybe he'll give us a rendition later. He also maintains a strong interest in world affairs and in military matters. So, Paul, I'm so delighted to be able to support this honour that we're bestowing on you today, and to say welcome to the freedom of the whole borough.
Thank you, Councillor Dunn. Now I request Councillor Lukey, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm reading from my phone because I've tried to print this off at home and it didn't work. But here we go. And I would have said quite a bit about Paul, who I think we got to know each other reasonably well when I was mayor, the double bubble mayor, and he on his second stint. And I don't know if you enjoyed my company as much as I enjoyed yours, but that's what it was, and we did have a good time in this building, brand new. Well done, young man. And we did quite a bit together. One of our early engagements was, which hasn't been mentioned tonight, the people that have spoken about Paul, but one of my early engagements as mayor, and the only time I used a motor to get up to town with my good friend, former councillor Mel Collins, and we scooted up to St Paul's, as Councillor Collins would say, our sister church. He goes, St Paul's in Brentford. Yeah, all right. Mel giving it large, but it was when we went, and there were a number of, not all of, most of the mayors of Greater London were there. And Paul, what you don't know, Paul was a wandsman, and he showed us round. He showed us to our locations where we sat in the choir, and that was a lovely evening anyway. But it was good to see him in action, other than here in Hounslow. Here we go. We log back in again now. Blimey. All right. So Paul, Deputy Lieutenant for Hounslow twice, 2 separate occasions. As Deputy Lieutenant during the 55th Mayor's term, 2-year stint, Paul and I caught up on several occasions as lockdowns permitted, if you remember them. But even when away, he was on call. He did spend, shall I tell him where you were? We did spend a lot of time communicating, me in Hounslow and him in Auckland, where he and Mrs Kennelly sat out much of the COVID, because, as you know, Jacinda wouldn't let them out. But now he is back. But at all times, Paul was close to Hounslow. He led the double act at the numerous citizenship ceremonies at Hounslow House in this part of the building, and at Feltham Registry Office, and was always interested, striking conversations with our citizens about where they came from, but most importantly, where they were going. And they were always touching times. I think there were some very happy people there in those rooms, and Paul put them at ease. I don't know how much at ease I put them at, but we played our parts. Paul is very interested in youth development, we know that, and encouraged many young people, not just armed forces, cadets, but also St John's Ambulance, police, and lately fire service cadets, youngsters looking to move on into those lines of work, or if not, but learn as a result of that. COVID prevented Paul's ambition for a parade of youth cadets at Hounslow Barracks before it closed, but was more than satisfied that an event took place during the 56th Mayor's tenure, arranged by Army Cadets Lieutenant Priscilla Ledley at Cranford. And I'm sorry I missed that, man. I know we talked about it, but it didn't happen, for me anyway. Deputy Lieutenant Paul Kennelly took Remembrance Sunday very seriously, and in preparation met with me and the 9 British Legion branches who have already achieved freedom with the London Borough of Hounslow. The first time in 2019 over fish and chips in the Mayor's Parlour, and then online in 2020. In 2019, Paul and I managed to visit all 10 of the war memorials on Remembrance Sunday in our borough, ending up at the Queen's Head, Cranford, in the middle of the Liverpool 3, Chelsea 1 game, which didn't detract from our decent Sunday roast, as he supports the Millers and I the Super Hoops anyway. Yeah, come on, you R's. I hope he'll be, yes, I know he's a Brentford supporter. I hope he'll be back in the borough from time to time. I know a local organisation who'd like him to be a trustee. We'll have a chat about that. And he's still promised the first product of the Hounslow Wonder apple tree that he planted at Dunsbury Park Orchard. Not fruited yet, but we're grafting. So thanking Paul again for his great interest in our borough, and wishing him and his good lady Julie all the best for your future. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Councillor Luki. Now I'd ask Councillor Bidoff to say a few words, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've met and spoken only briefly, but I did want to pay tribute to the part you have played here in Hounslow, serving as Deputy Lieutenant twice, as has been said, which is highly unusual. It shows your commitment to the borough and, importantly, to Her Majesty the Queen, for whom I have the utmost respect. As we all know, the role of Deputy Lieutenant is a non-political one, others have alluded to that too, rising above the vagaries of party politics. Perhaps keeping calm and carrying on applies particularly to deputy lieutenants everywhere. I know from my own family, a grandfather who was coronation mayor when the Queen's father took the throne, how significant it is to serve in a significant role during significant royal years. And note that this has happened to you twice. I wonder if you had duties to carry out on the day of the 2012 Thames pageant during the Queen's Diamond Jubilee celebrations and also got soaked in the rain. The weather this year has been better on Platinum Jubilee occasions, and perhaps that is a reward in your case for long service and dedication. It's not hard to recognise military men and women. They stand tall and have a natural presence. They bring dignity and ceremony to events and occasions, and you have certainly done that here. Google is our friend on occasions such as this, and I, of course, had a snoop. You have stood tall and ceremoniously throughout the borough during both your terms, honouring, some of these have been mentioned already, Chiswick House, the Fire Brigade, the Cadets, the Food Bank at interfaith events, the Mulberry Centre, and of course, as has been said, the Royal British Legion on Remembrance Sundays, and many more, as various others have said. Google also helped me find a rather wonderful portrait of you by David Pinch, honouring your 40 years in the City of London as a Chartered Surveyor. It portrays you as a member of the Worshipful Company of Parish Clerks. With that title, most of us here would assume that you had a role supporting a parish council, for which not only councillors, but also officers might offer you many sympathies. But the artist reveals that the parishes are those whose churches burnt down in the Great Fire of London, and the churches no longer exist. The artist goes on to explain, in other words, an excuse for lavish dinners and conviviality. In the portrait, you have a glass of what I suspect is very fine wine in your hand. And if I may say so, it was painted when your very splendid eyebrows were perhaps in their heyday. Everyone's going to be Googling now. I rather fear that, as so often said about MPs, you've had more rubber chicken dinners than lavish ones in your role as Deputy Lieutenant. But I thank you for that, as they mean so much for people involved in the organisations and events you've supported with such dignity and ceremony throughout our local community. It's with great pleasure that I say that the freedom of borough should be granted to you.
Thank you, Councillor Budov, and all the councillors, and thank you to Google as well. Now I request Councillor Mann, please, can you say a few words?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Councillor Lau, Councillor Amrit, for your kind words, together with Councillor Gerald McGregor and Councillor Ron Mashisho. Another excellent delivery. You're hired. Mr. Mayor, I repeat myself again. I congratulate yourself, because this is the first meeting after our general meeting, your Deputy Mayor, and also the Leader of the Council and his Deputy, Catherine, and also their spouses and partners who are going to provide much needed support from here on end. So I wish them well, and I wish you well. A lot's been said. It's on the 4th of May this year, it was 28 years that have lapsed since I sat on the council. So my political journey began in 1984. When I joined the Labour Party at university, this was during, and I'm not playing politics, but this is a factual thing, it was during the Margaret Thatcher years. And almost 10 years later, I was elected to become a councillor in Heston East with the support of my father, who is 92 and who has his phone ringing. So you've got to excuse him. But he actually put me into this line of work. And along with ex-councillor Shiv Gill, Shiv served, I think, 6 years on this council. Peter Thompson and others might know. But these were the guys who pushed me and propelled me into this role, because they themselves were public servants. My father had been on the temple committees, and Uncle Shiv Gill had been a teacher and a prolific Punjabi writer, and his books are standard text for A-level Punjabi. So these guys were highly knowledgeable, and they said we need a younger input. So they threw me in the deep end. Nothing was planned. It just so happened that I was pushed in. So I was also, I suppose, blessed. I was honoured and I was privileged to have the support of Neville and Doreen Lawrence, who came out to Heston East during the election period in 1994. This was against the BNP candidate Warren Glass, who stood in Heston East. And really, that's why I want to make this special mention and thank them for their unwavering support at that time. During their darkest hours and years, they took time out to reach out and help others, because they saw what racism meant and what could happen if racism took a foothold in politics. So I would like to say a big thank you to both of them. On this journey of mine, I was also helped by my uncle, Amrit Mann, who's currently here. He was again a temple elder, general secretary no less, of the Southall Gurdwara on Havelock Road, and Uncle Darshan Garwal. Uncle Darshan, well, it wasn't Darshan Garwal, but it was Darshan Nagara, who actually is the chair of the IWA, which is a very well organisation within the Indian community. They offered advice on all matters, be it political or otherwise, and is very well welcomed. In 2006, when this council fell under the control of a Conservative-led coalition, I took the opportunity to further educate myself, obtaining a graduate diploma in law, a legal practice course, and a master's in law from the University of West London. And I know the VC, Professor Peter John, is here. Professor Peter John is CBE. And the head of the law school, Philip Ells, my mentor and friend, is also here. And I would like to thank them for giving up their valuable time to come here tonight, but also to participate in that journey all those years ago and put me on a path which I've always loved and cherished. With their encouragement, I later qualified as a solicitor. Now, people ask, why did you stand for the council? I'm sure all councillors will get asked that question by the residents. Like Neville and Doreen Lawrence, I stood because I too wanted to make a difference to the area where I lived, and I still live today. I like a challenge and love to find solutions, hence my total immersion into local politics for the last 28 years. It's not been an easy journey, juggling a family life, 2 failed marriages, and a business commitment, a commitment to the ward, commitment to the Labour Party, and also this council. In fact, I would often have meetings in my shop in Bell Road, where officers and councillors would get a tea and a biscuit, which Peter Carey, he's no longer with us sadly, but a thorough gentleman, really enjoyed. Now, the current time, things have changed beyond all recognition. Since then, there's been a readjustment of moral and political compasses, not just in Hounslow, but all over the world. We've seen a rise of the alternative facts, challenging the normal protocols and controlling the narrative. This fraternizing with concocted counter-arguments is yet another erosion of the belief in our democratic systems and should be opposed at every opportunity. In 1994, and this is why I did it because the love of politics rather than the money, we got a reimbursement of about £800 a year. So a lot of people that came on, they came onto this council as a result of their politics. It was the politics that drove all of us, and I think Jagdish, Tony is the other individual that was there in those days. And it was a very passionate politics of belief in yourself, belief in your party, whichever party, and belief that you're doing something worthwhile for the residents that have elected you to represent them. Good, open, and transparent decision making will help residents come on board, have faith in the democracy and their council. What's a councillor? That's the other question. What's a councillor? What do they do and who they represent? My personal opinion on this is that a councillor is a community champion who represents the people who elect them. However, in today's connected world, the local politics is no longer just a standalone function. Examples such as environmental issues, clean air, so it's all over the place, right? Across Borough, working with shared services, but more importantly on the rights of individuals and human rights. It's up to all of us to uphold these basic values and freedom of speech. And we must not falter from airing these where voices are being silenced around the world. Steve Biko Way, a road that's in Hounslow, and it was named at the height of the apartheid era. And I feel proud that Hounslow took this stand. So therefore, our roles as councillors, we shouldn't just put blinkers on and look at it on a local level. We're part of a bigger world. Hounslow is a good example of a borough where it stands up for these core values, which over time, unfortunately, have been eroded. All is not lost. It's not doom and gloom. All is not lost. In my 28 years, I've seen some good things, some bad things. But the general trajectory is always for the good, because everybody that gets elected onto his local authority gives up their valuable time in service of the residents that elected them. We have a new cohort of councillors who I hope pick up the mantle and lead from the front on the basis of commitment to values this council and its residents deserve. My motto, and Ron, this is for you to write up, and I don't mind if you leak it to John Dale, right? My motto and life code that I live by, and I stand by it, and I would die by it. We're all different, but we're all equal. And we must promote all that is good and challenge all that is not. And finally, I would like to thank my two ward colleagues, Dramel Lau, Amrit, but also my ex-ward colleague, Councillor Kamaljeet Kaur, with whom I had a fantastic relationship in working right along with Councillor Lau as well. And we achieved a number of successes in our ward. And no doubt that work will continue with AXA at the helm. So, Mr. Mayor, I thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. And now I may invite our friend tonight, Paul Kennelly, to speak, please. Thank you.
Deputy Lieutenant, Mr. Mayor, Members of Parliament, Councillors, Chief Executive, ladies and gentlemen, I must admit I'm extremely hard-pressed to know how to reply to many of the comments that have been made. Leader, thank you very much for all that you said. Councillor McGregor, I think you've been talking to too many people I know, and I'm going to have words with them next time I see them. I was more than taken aback knowing Jeremy Crossley, whom I've known for a long time. Thank you. Furthermore, Councillor Dunn, thank you for everything that you kindly said. Councillor Lukey, yes, we did have some interesting times when you were mayor. Not only the fact that I was actually in Auckland, but nobody actually really knew that much. And after all, it was locked down and it was very straightforward. But it was some of those times when it was the Hounslow Chamber of Commerce trying to persuade me to give an award. And I would say, wait a bit, I've got to get up at 4 a.m. to do this. Well, they didn't worry at all. No, just get out of bed and do it. Fine, said I. Don't worry, I'll do it. So I did. And Councillor Biddulph, well, yes, thank you very much for everything you've been saying as well. Again, I'm really taken aback by all the very, very kind words. Thank you. During my time as Deputy Lieutenant, I've actually served with 6 mayors. Tony Lukey, of course, doing 2 years. That's why I got 7. But I have so enjoyed the whole of my time. It's actually impossible to bring it together in more ways than just simply saying thank you or how much it meant to me to be part of the community of Hounslow and also going forward to remain and be part as well. Hounslow has played such an integral part of my life. But before saying anything more, I would very much like to express my most sincere thanks and gratitude to Carol Pierce and Nicole Lewis. Now, they have been outstandingly kind. It was my bleating, where am I meant to be, or what's the postcode for X, so I can make sure I know where to go to. Or can I have a car parking space in Hounslow House? And it was things like that. And it was never too much, neither for Carol nor Nicole, to say, oh, of course, don't worry, yes, it's all done and organised, and there it is. So my sincere thanks to both of you for all that you put up with me in the past. Thank you. Now, alternatively, there are other organisations which played a big role in my life in Hounslow. And I'd like to express my very sincere gratitude to Alan Rides and Sally Smith at Hounslow Chamber of Commerce for all the wonderful work they do in the community. Not only in the community, but for West London business. In fact, it was Alan who came up with some interesting statistics to tell me that the GDP of Hounslow is in fact more than the island of Malta or the country of Albania. And these are very relevant facts to me, and I absorb them with relish. But thank you. Barbara McKinvey, Charity Ajit Singh, thank you for all that you do and have done with the Hounslow Friends of Faith. I really am most grateful and appreciative for everything. Thank you. There was also another fount of information for me, and that was the RAM magazine run by David Blackett, and he is here this evening with his wife Vivian. Thank you both for everything and the information which I've been able to glean from the magazines. Very good. As has been mentioned earlier, one day I took extremely seriously was Remembrance Sunday. And that brought together so many parts of the community of Hounslow. And that was one in particular reason why I enjoyed it. We will start with a service at Holy Trinity, 10:30 start. Excellent. And then, as Tony Lukey said, off we went to the Royal British Legion branches. And what a reception we had. And I know there are quite a few of them here this evening. So may I say thank you to all of you in the Royal British Legion branches for the kindness, hospitality. But not only that, but the praise you took. Neville, thank you. And it was always wonderful. And then to Feltham in the afternoon, and thank you for everything that you did as well. This was a wonderful parade. We had people of all sizes, from that high upwards, Cubs, Brownies, Scouts, Reserve Forces, Cadets, you name it, they were there. And it was a wonderful march past and gathering of so many people in the community over there. And a fabulous cup of tea and cakes afterwards in the church hall. That I do well remember. I mentioned the word cadets. Yes, the cadet world to me is very, very important. One of the things which happened in the last year or two was the opportunity to welcome a new cadet unit into the Borough of Hounslow, that of London Fire Brigade cadets. That I was really delighted to happen. It was talked about in 2018-19, and I went to see the person leading it, and sadly, I can't find him. I don't know where he is. I've left messages, sent him emails, etc., but no answer. But nevertheless, now they're an established unit within the cadet world, and that to me is very important. We now have 6 cadet units in the Borough of Hounslow. Typical military ones, St John's, Fire Brigade, and Police. And that to me is really important. Long may it last, and long may it be encouraged within the borough. On the Remembrance Day, Remembrance Sunday last year, with Councillor Borough as Mayor, not only did we do the rounds I've just mentioned, but we also went to Diwali in the evening. And that was an outstanding event in my mind. And it's very difficult to describe my thinking and thoughts at the time. But what did happen while we were there was that there were various photographs taken. And one of the photographs that were taken, I put into my final report for last year. Deputy Lieutenants, we have to produce a report every year for the Lord Lieutenant. And in this was a picture taken of the Mayor and myself. And I put it in my report thinking, given people some interest in picture, giving 1,000 words, of course. What I didn't know was going to happen was that picture was then put in to the Lord Lieutenant's report to Her Majesty the Queen. So that picture found its way into Buckingham Palace. So I hope that they appreciated that picture. So Councillor Goring, thank you very much for that opportunity, which I so enjoyed that evening. And it was a great day. Yes, I did go to Pocklington School in East Yorkshire, and that was an interesting experience. I am actually from South Yorkshire, so Yorkshire is not an unknown entity to me. But that was... I'm still going to have to do some digging to find out where you got all this from. Anyway, don't worry about it. My thanks also to our 2 members of Parliament, Seema Malhotra and Ruth Cadbury. Thank you both. Over all the years, Seema, Ruth and I have been in contact with each other and never flinching, replies, cooperation, interest, and whatever. Wonderful, and thank you. I also want to thank Tracy Oss from West Thames College. I found it particularly interesting going to see her and talk to her about education and what's happening. Again, part of my interest in what young people are doing, and the more so in the community. The fact that she's a Geordie is another matter. That doesn't worry me, although in her eyes I'm a southerner from South Yorkshire. But don't let that worry you. But then there's Gemma Brown from the West Middlesex, and such a person to go and see. My wife Gillian and I went to see the West Middlesex one day and really had a very interesting discussion about COVID, lockdown, and what had been going on within the hospital. I think it's 102 years old this year, in fact. Raj Atwell, Mulberry Centre. Wonderful charity, and thank you. Queen's Award for Voluntary Service winner 2 years ago. Superb. I had the great honour and pleasure of going there, and I shall be retaining and maintaining a strong link and connection with that charity going forward. One thing that did happen on June the 2nd this year was the lifting of an embargo. And that embargo was on the Rihanna Development Network in Chiswick. They were awarded a Queen's Award for voluntary service. And I went to see them back in January this year. And the work that they have done over the last 3 years or thereabouts in the community has been outstandingly good. A wonderful testimony. And if anybody did deserve a Queen's Award for voluntary service, them. So I was delighted when the embargo came off and I was able to mention it here this evening. Sally Stevens, well, Brentford Football Club, the Bees, what more can I say? But fantastic. You know, they've got a very strong follower of somebody we know well in New Zealand. And he constantly rings me up and says, now, how are you getting on with the Bees? I said, don't worry, just look at the league table. That'll tell you quite enough as to how well they're doing. Fantastic. Couldn't be better. I couldn't also forget or leave out of the fact that Hounslow Council was voted Council of the Year in 2021, and what a great achievement that was by everybody. The then leader, Steve Curran, the mayor, the councillors, and everybody. I was absolutely delighted to know about that. Councillor Lukey mentioned the Hounslow Wonder apple tree. Well, I was at Gunnersbury Park not long ago. Actually, we were doing a massive tree planting job. It was Japanese cherry trees, that's what it was. And I asked about the Hounslow Wonder tree, and I can tell you it is thriving. It is in excellent heart, and apples will not be that far away. Don't worry, it's going well. It took to the ground perfectly. Well, my time as a Deputy Lieutenant has been beyond anything I could possibly have imagined. And the opportunity to become that for the borough has been beyond any expectation I could possibly have had. My special thanks to everyone, to the mayors, the councillors, the officers. I've done so much, as I was saying, from tree planting, citizenship ceremonies. What a fantastic time to meet people. Somebody whose father had been in jail with Lech Wałęsa at the shipyard in Gdansk in Poland. The beginning of what happened, a world-changing event. He told me a lot about it. Someone whose grandfather flew Spitfires as a Polish airman in the Second World War. And she was nearly in tears of the fact that she was becoming a citizen. All this is absolutely vital, wonderful, and strikingly interesting that these people want to talk about it and delighted to become citizens of the UK. I really enjoyed talking to so many. I may have bored everybody rigid. I don't know whether I did or not, but nobody ever said so. But, or maybe it's the fact that nobody from the Registrar's office is here tonight. That's probably why. I don't know. I hope not. Anyway, but that's another matter. But Hounslow has been part of my life in every respect. The only thing I won't be missing is running up and down the M3, leaving home at 7 a.m. or something for a citizenship ceremony. I got to know the M3 pretty well. But I'd also like to thank my wife, Jilly, for everything that she's so kindly done. It's been superb. And there I was, up the M3, back by lunchtime. Oh, yes. And people would say to me, where have you been? I said, oh, just been to London and back. What? They thought I was mad. But to me, it was so important to be part of the community, part of Hounslow, and now I've got the opportunity to going forward with this involvement. Mr. Mayor, this is an enormous honour to me, and I cannot but thank you enough, everybody, for the great honour that I am being given this evening. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. You both deserve this. Now, as a member of our special guests and councillors know themselves, being a freeman and free woman of the borough is to be part of Select Club, and rightly so, for serving the borough and the community in so many distinguished and important way is a wonderful thing, and it is right we should mark it. Therefore, it's my great pleasure to ask members if they agree with the recommendation in the report, which is to admit Councillor Amrit Mann and Mr. Paul Kennelly to to become a freeman of the borough? That's easy, thank you. I now take great pleasure in presenting our newest freeman and formal certification in the form of an illuminated scroll bestowing upon them the freedom of the borough. There will be also an official photograph taken, and the members of the public may also come forward to take photographs at this point if they wish to do so. Thank you, everyone. And now I request everyone to join me in the reception. Thank you.
Is that finished? Yeah, that's